So thank you guys for being here today. I had to tell you, I have had so much fun at this conference. I was explaining to my husband last night on the phone that one of the things that was so powerful to me personally was that I could have never met all of you in one place ever before. I mean, that's the thing, right? So you all work for different companies. Chances are we wouldn't be at the same conferences, and if we did, we'd meet by accident. But oftentimes as a sales professional, what are you doing at those events, right? You're interacting with your customers, you're interacting with your own colleagues. If you're an introvert like me, I'm an off-the-charts introvert, believe it or not, I would not want to talk to new people if I didn't have to. So what a great thing that Scott put together. So Scott, thank you for doing this. So I want to ask you guys to kind of take a little journey with me before we get started. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think of the end of your life. When you're older, you've lived a long life, perhaps you're married, perhaps you're not, but I want you to kind of take yourself to where you're at the end here. And I want you to think about what your life has meant to you, and I want you to think about the things that'll be on your mind that'll be most important, okay? It might be that hiking trip that you took. It might be your grandchildren, your spouse, it might be a best friend, it might be family. But you're not, chances are, thinking about, damn it, I didn't meet that quota that year. You're not thinking about, geez, I should have really mapped that prospect better. And while all of those things are wonderful as sales professionals, what I really want to challenge you guys to do this morning is to think a little bit outside of the quotas, the achievements, how to be better at your job and what to do differently. And I want you to think about the person that you want to be. And I would submit to you that when we are the person that we want to be, we will do the right things and we will have success. For me, success is really defined very differently. So when I think about success for me, it's defined in terms of the things you see on this little collage that I created. For me, success is being the woman that Paul Nicholson would marry all over again. It's being the mother that Clayton and Murphy are proud to introduce to their friends and give me this great playlist that we had to somehow stop from playing. My 14-year-old keeps me relevant. We're going to see Lil Uzi Vert in a VIP box this summer. I'm so excited. Anyway, it's to be that mom that Murphy, Clayton are proud to introduce to their friends. And it's also being the person that my boss, my co-founders would hire again and again and again. That's success to me. I can survive different things. I can have all the punches thrown my way. I can fail, and I can still be successful. Why? Because I'm the person that I want to be. Nobody can ever take that away from you. If you're the person that you want to be, nobody can ever take it away from you. I put my contact information up here just ahead of time, so if you want to reach out to me, you can. But these are the reasons I do what I do. And yes, the Chicago Blackhawks and the Chicago Cubs are up there. So they are a big reason I do what I do. So let me talk a little bit about coaches and mentors. So a lot of times the terms can get used interchangeably. I'm not talking about a coach in a deal. I'm actually talking about a professional coach that you might hire, that you might ask for help. And so Scott and I have talked about this before on our podcast, and we talked about it one-on-one, and I've asked feedback from some of you as I've met you over the last 24 hours about how do you view coaches and mentors. So the thing is often a coaching relationship is very formal. And a mentor relationship, you may have many mentors, right? People you look up to, people that you help, people that have helped you. And so while they do accomplish similar things, a coaching relationship is very formal. It's not for everybody. You have to pay for it. Sometimes you have to pay a lot of money for it. But there are a lot of great people out there. You should mentor people, and you should be mentored. And sometimes you might need a coach. A lot of times I tell people that when you decide to be a coach is some of the things, when you decide to need a coach is what we're going to talk about a little bit today, and also about the importance of mentors. Another distinction that was brought up to me that I really liked a lot was often a mentorship is a two-way street, right? So your mentor gets a lot out of mentoring you, and you get a lot of being mentored. With a coach, it's really one way, right? They are there to serve you and help you to be a better person. Might be a short relationship, might be like me, a long-term relationship. I desperately need it. I've been with my coach for 4 years, still going strong. And so you might find that those relationships really serve you well. But a lot of what I wanted to talk about today is how to take those coaches and make them your unfair advantage. Because one of the things Scott talked about when he talked about this conference is how do you build an unfair advantage as a sales professional? I mean, some of you guys blew my mind yesterday. So I kept thinking, God, I really suck. Yesterday I was like, I thought I was so good at building rapport, and then I hear this stories. I thought I was so good at like fighting harder for everything, and I hear Kyle's talk. I thought I was great at discovery, and then I heard Deb's talk. I thought I was great at mapping out a plan until I heard Dave's talk. I thought I was great at service until I heard Dewan's talk. And so this is awesome. I hope you felt that way, because if you don't feel that way, then we're probably never going to be friends. At any rate, what I would say to you is being that person that you want to be. I know I kind of took you guys down a little dark journey there, but it's not meant to be that way, right? At the end of your life, you should be like, damn it, I went out in style. Look at me. Look at all I did. Look at who I was. I'm so thankful for the impact I've had in others' lives. And that's the inner circle that you choose to be around. Your inner circle is your unfair advantage. It's very powerful. Think about the people that are closest to you and the impact they have on you. If your inner circle is your wife or your husband or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your best friend and they're pissed at you, how do you feel? Does anybody feel good? No, you don't. Your inner circle is powerful, but who do we often put in our inner circle? The customer that treats us like poo, the boss who doesn't like us and doesn't respect us, and we let that affect us. So I would challenge you to think about your inner circle, the coaches, the mentors, the people you bring into your inner circle as the ones that you give the most energy to, the most time to, and choose very wisely as to who you put in there. But a lot of times it's like you think about it, who are you surrounding yourself with? Sometimes we don't have a choice over who we surround ourselves with. We get clients, we have prospects, we have to talk to them. But I would submit to you that you can really make sure that they don't affect your energy level. Because when you're at your best is when you're really going to have the most impact on others. And I believe that you're going to have a lot of great sales success. You think about who you can trust. So a coach, a mentor has to be somebody that there's an absolute level of trust. Because they need to be able to tell you the hard things. I had my coach back up a few years before I started my current role at Percolate, which is an amazing company on the technology side for content marketing. And I had a great 6-year run at a company that I absolutely loved, built the business from $150,000 a year to $19 million in 6 years, and was really proud of that. And I found myself with perceptions about me in the organization that were absolutely not true. And I blamed everybody. I pointed fingers, I was pissed. I said, this is terrible, this isn't fair. Guess what I did by doing that? I gave away my power. I had to look in the mirror, I had to have a coach tell me, that was your fault, Jacquelyn. You did that. He's like, yeah, you had to deal with some pretty bad people, but you know what? Ultimately, you own it. And the truth is that's a hard truth to hear, and I could only hear it from somebody who I had absolute trust in. And so when you seek out a mentor or you seek out a coach, you're going to really need to have people that you can trust, that you can listen to. They're going to tell you the things that no one else wants to tell you, because that is not fun to hear, and it's not fun to tell somebody either, right? But the tough times are really where I think, honestly, where we grow as professionals. So I think in Paul's talk yesterday, he had the quote that was, success is a horrible teacher, right? Success is a lousy teacher, I think was the phrase. And it is, right? A lot of times we grow in the toughest times. And I'll tell you a little bit about mine later. Some of you might have heard this story last night about the thing that I would tell you right now that's had the most impact in my life for my success and my happiness was almost dying on a business trip last year from leukemia, and I didn't even know I had it. So how on earth in my wonderful life of only 30 years, just kidding, have I the most powerful experience, the most positive experience, a path I would never choose to go down, but has blessed me beyond measure, was almost dying. So that's the unfair advantage. Now everybody needs someone. Even Patrick Kane with his ninja stick handling. Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the best football players to ever live, and his Dutch cousin, Robin van Persie. Do you think these guys have coaches? What about LeBron James? Who's that guy next to him? Anybody know who that guy is?
Looks like LeBron's coaching him there.
Now let me ask you. Now let me ask you a question. Do you think LeBron James tells his coach, "Man, I don't need you"? Love or hate LeBron, man. He first of all, he's gorgeous, okay? But is he good or what? Do you think he lifts weights? Ever? Does he train?
Yes.
Do you think he talks to his teammates? Do you think he trusts that man in that photo? Right. Everybody needs a coach. Even the best people in the world. In fact, the best people in the world know how desperately they need a coach. Look at these people. They're the best at what they do. Javi freaking Baez is an amazing guy. How many times does he do batting practice? How many times do you think they throw ground balls in his face? How many times does he diving catches just to make that play on TV that you all go, oh my God, it's so exciting, right? They work their asses off and they have coaches. Right? If you were to tell me that, hey, I don't need any help, I would tell you, I think you really need to rethink that position, right? Everybody needs somebody like this. But in order to be coached, in order to be mentored, you've got to be a lot of things. First of all, you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready to listen to it. You've got to be willing, right, to do it. You've got to be able. And most of all, you've got to be disciplined. There are a lot of people out there that know that they need to change and they have no discipline to change it. It's like, I think somebody said yesterday, it's like, oh, I know I need to lose weight, but I don't know, I like to drink like 5 glasses of wine every night, right? So, it's discipline. But the truth is the best people, the best athletes, the best professionals, I was really impressed. I think I had a conversation with Kyle yesterday, and like after just really admiring the things he said, all I got the sense of from him was that he was just hungry for learning more. Like, how cool is that, right? Like I wish I had that kind of energy, that kind of passion 20 years ago. I mean, that's freaking amazing. So keep going, bro. I'm watching you, following you a lot. Hopefully you'll remember me someday. But how do you get to the next level, right? And that's really where I think the coach, for me anyway, has come in. And I think that's where mentors can take us as well. So there's really a variety of viewpoints. And this is actually, there's some great sales analogies in this, right? So think about the kinds of customers you love to work with. How many of you like to work with customers who just don't believe that your solution is really valuable? There's no hands. Who wants to work with somebody who's like, oh my God, your technology is game changing and I want it, right? Your services are beyond compare. I really want that. I really need that, right? Exactly. Those are the kinds of people that you want to work with. You want to work with the believers, right? You don't want to work with the non-believers. What about the waiters? The waiters are fun. We'll talk a little bit more about the waiters. Are the people like, oh, I'm just waiting for everybody else to do something, right? The drifters, yeah, like, I know we need to change, but I'm not really ready. And the seekers, those are my people. That's my tribe. Okay. So non-believers, what I would tell you right now is like non-believers, when you can disqualify them, when you can cut them loose, please do, right? And this is true when you're seeking out a coach or a mentor, or when you're seeking to be coached or mentored. If you're a non-believer, a coach or a mentor who's worth their salt is not going to want to work with you because you don't believe, right? It's too much energy to convince you. It's too much energy to convince that prospect, right? Like, it's not my job to convince you that you need to solve your problems that desperately need to be solved, right? If you don't believe it, I can't really help you get over that hurdle. I can educate you, I can try, but if after a while, I'm not going to waste my energy. And you've got to move on. Quite frankly, these people don't believe in the need for change and they're unable to make it sometimes. The waiters, these are the people, y'all, I've got a little bit of laughter here. So they know that there's a need for change, right? But they're really seeking somebody else's approval. They're seeking for somebody to be able to tell them it's okay to change. They're waiting for others to act. Like, there's nothing wrong. Like, if you find yourself in the non-believing category, you find yourself in this category, it's not a problem. It's just recognizing where you're at and knowing how to grow from there. And in my opinion, so the kinds of customers that I want to work with, I don't mind a waiter. I can sometimes feel like I can pull them along, but they're a lot of energy as well, just like the non-believers. The same is true if you're looking to be mentored or coached and you're kind of waiting to see what happens, right? You're on the cusp of some change, right? You're not sure what's going to happen. You want something to change, but you're not quite sure what that something is. You're still kind of waiting. You don't recognize. Like for me, it was like a big kick in the pants. I had to change. I absolutely had to change. The drifters, right? This is somebody that, like I said, they recognize the fact that change is needed, but they don't have the discipline. They're the person who wants to be in shape but doesn't want to go to the gym. A lot of times a catalyst event, something that's big, can help these people get over the edge. We see a lot of customer and prospect analogies in this as well. So something might happen in their business that makes them need to change. And so sometimes you get fortunate and something will catalyze that change. But a lot of times they lack that discipline. All of those three groups, the non-believers, the waiters, the drifters, are really hard to sell to and they're really hard to work with, right? So if you want to be a person who wants to be mentored, wants to be coached, you've got to be open to that and you've got to be a seeker. So I talked to you a little bit about my experience last year. I was in Reston, Virginia. I was at a Sheraton by the airport at Dulles Airport, and I wasn't feeling well. I had skipped some meetings. I was going to see the CMO of Verizon. Wasn't feeling too good. So I had gotten antibiotics when we were visiting Verizon in New Jersey. I was like, I'll be better in a couple days, right? No big deal, be fine. So I go to sleep. I wake up the next morning. I'm feeling worse. I'm thinking, something's not right. This isn't good. So I'm all alone in a hotel room, 3,000 miles away from my family in California. And I think, I have a choice to make. I have to figure something out here. I have to seek help. So I called the front desk and I asked them to call me an ambulance because I could barely walk at this point. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I'm a runner. I'm a healthy person. Like, what is going on here? This is weird. The ambulance comes to get me. The EMTs looked at me. I wanted to go to GW. I have 20 years in the pharmaceutical industry. I'm pretty picky about academic medical institutions and like really good places to go. I'm like, I am not going to the community hospital here. I'm going to GW. They're like, well, that's 90 minutes away. The EMT looks at me, told me later. He said, Jacquelyn, if you had gone to GW, you would have died in the ambulance. If I'd gone back to sleep in my hotel room, I would have died in my sleep. In a crappy airport Sheraton. Remember the exercise at the beginning? Close your eyes, where do you want to be? I did not want to be in the crappy airport Sheraton at all. So here I am, I'm like, what am I going to do? So they take me to the hospital, and my CEO at Percolate, Noah Breyer, was traveling with me. After meeting, he shows up at the ER. And he tells the story later, which is absolutely hilarious to hear a story about yourself later on. He goes, I walk into the room, and Jacquelyn's got the ER staff eating out of her hand. She's giving them crap, and they're laughing. And she looks green. And the doctors are telling me, you're septic. I'm like, what? Are you kidding? Like, that's for people who had surgery and their appendix burst. Oh no, that's you. Okay, that's not good. What else, doc? And so I'm seeking help. I'm asking questions. I'm looking for answers, right? What was I supposed to say? Just like, oh, well, I'll just lay here. And they're telling me what's wrong with me, and I'm literally in shock. They're telling me my blood counts. Anybody who wants to know afterwards, tell me. I won't belabor the point on this video and in this talk here today, but it was crazy. And I found myself all alone in a critical care unit next door to the ICU, because they didn't have room in the ICU, getting antibiotics that I've only heard in my worst nightmares. And they don't know what's wrong with me. Turns out I had something called acute promyelocytic leukemia, which is actually the leukemia lottery, I've been told. So if you get leukemia, that's the kind that you want, because it's the most deadly, but it's also the most curable. And all I did was go into learning mode. I sought out mentors. I sought out medical professionals. I asked questions, and I solved problems with the help of some amazing people. But the reason that I was able to do that is because my energy was freed up for that. The singular focus that I had was figuring out that problem and getting to a resolution. And that's the discipline that was needed at that time. That kind of discipline is often really found in the hard times like that, right? Was I going to give up? I'm not going to give up. I'm young. I got 2 kids. I got 3 dogs. I got a great husband. I'm going to live. And so that discipline, which is so important, willing to work, willing to listen, willing to really expect miracles. And so those are the kinds of people I seek out in my tribe. These are my people, absolutely, without a question. The people who are willing to walk through walls for me, and I'm willing to walk through walls for them. And those are my tribe. Those are my people. And this is just a little bit of a snapshot of my journey at UCSF. I spent 30 days at UCSF Medical Center getting well, and the last 9 months going through chemotherapy to get a clean bone marrow biopsy a couple months ago. And so being able to be a seeker, being willing to listen, wanting more information is so critical. And it ties back to how I started my conversation, right? I've been given the great gift of actually being on the edge of the abyss of the end of my life and realizing what was important to me. And I think I always was really pretty good at knowing what was important. I was a fairly happy person, but that brought it into really stark relief for me. Not all of us are going to get that gift, and I hope you don't. I hope you all live long, happy lives. I hope the people that you love and that love you have long, happy lives. But I will tell you this, that's when people are absolutely tested and made, right? That's where you find steel, right? In a fire. It's not pretty. So the cool thing is that you don't have to have those near-death experiences. You don't have to go through crappy stuff. You can have just a kind of an awesome life. But if you learn from people close to you, if you learn from people who have had these kinds of experiences, and you can sort of take something from that and make your life better, how awesome is that, right? And that's when I talk about the inner circle. I talked about who do you surround yourself with? Who do you care about most? Who cares about you? Whose life did you make better today or yesterday, right? That's how I close out my day every day. I think, who did I make a difference for? Did I make a difference for somebody today? I don't always succeed at that, but it's a really good question to ask at the end of your day. And it might be a family member, it might be a coworker, it might be a customer. Because why are we in this job of sales? Is anybody here just to make money? I mean, I love making money. So if you like making money, raise your hand. It's okay. I mean, this is why we do it, right? But what's the purpose of that money? I mean, I like nice cars. I love expensive wine, okay? But I also like giving to charity. I like helping people that need help. I like to take care of my family. I like to buy my son new soccer cleats, which is at this pace happening very quickly at the age of 14 and his size 13 cleats. So I would say to you that the purpose of that money isn't necessarily just for your own pleasure, even though it's an awesome thing. Do not get me wrong. But the purpose is to give back. The purpose is to help people, right? That's why we do what we do. And why do we sell stuff to customers? Is it to get one over on them? No. right, to serve. Exactly. Ola is so right. We develop a product and a service and we sell it. We found companies that create these things. We go out and we talk to customers. Why? We want to help them. They have a problem that we can solve. But if we don't care about them, if we don't care about the person we are never going to be very good at selling. We might have some material success. We might, get, the quota clubs. We might be President's Club. We might be Salesman of the Year, Saleswoman of the Year. But are we really serving the people around us? Are we really making a difference? And that's what I would say to you that I think is very vital and it's really important. So I have a few key takeaways that I want to share with you, and then I'm going to play a short audio clip and then take a couple of questions. But the key takeaways for me is think about where you're at in your career. Where are you at in your life? Are you in the midst of any kind of change right now? I am. I'm just figuring out how to stop fighting leukemia and start doing something else, and I've been kind of wandering around going what do I do now? That's a lot. That's a big fight. There's some people in this room that know what I'm talking about if you've been through that kind of a fight. And later you're like, okay. I'm used to punching. I'm used to fighting. I'm used to going to chemo every day. What do I do? No more arsenic? You sure? That was my chemo. And so you find yourself in the midst of change. Maybe your company's been acquired. Maybe you've moved. Maybe you're ready for a new job. Maybe you're burnt out on your job. And you're on the cusp of change. You founded a company. You're finding new customers. Maybe you've been given a new role, a new team. You're in the middle of change. Change is really important. And change is something, it's sometimes the scariest thing, for sure. Do you feel like you lack confidence ever? You guys, I totally do. I know it doesn't show. I hide it really well. When I first walked up here, I was like, I hope they like me. I hope they like me. Oh, wait, I pushed the button. They like me. Sally Field's old movie, They Really Like Me. Oh, God, that's so fun. I'm really showing my age here. But, lacking confidence, everybody lacks confidence. Find the things that make you feel confident, right? Find a coach, find a mentor, find the people, find the outfit, find the songs, whatever, give you that confidence. I think Phil and I were talking last night about music he listens to before a big demo, which I loved. It was really fun. And I never would have met Phil outside of this conference. I never would have met Dewan. I never would have met you guys. I never would have met Ola, Jeff, all of you. This is awesome, right? So if you're lacking confidence, you're in great company. Because even those guys, the athletes on that list, they get nervous before big games. They get nervous before big events. I'm sure artists that go on stage, they get nervous. Why do you think there's such a rampant drug problem in the artist community? They're scared crapless. They're medicating themselves, right? So you're not alone if you lack confidence. Are you out of time? I don't think that, I think my life's just starting, right? But I'm much further along in my career than a lot of you. But do I feel like I'm out of time? Sometimes. I sure did last May in that hotel room, in that little ER. Felt like I was out of time. And it's funny, when you close your eyes at the beginning of this talk and I asked you to sort of take yourself to that place, what were you guys thinking about? Was anybody like to share what they thought about? Yeah.
My kids.
Yeah, your kids. That's a good one. I thought about my kids. Anybody else? Anything different?
I didn't even have kids, and I thought about kids.
Yeah. But Walt, that's so powerful, right? Here's a great young guy who's got his whole life ahead of him, and he's like, damn it, I didn't have kids yet. That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that, right? I thought about my husband, I thought about my kids, and I know this is gonna sound silly, but then I thought about all this wine that I've had in a cellar. I have 6, I do, we have about, 600 plus bottles of wine. It's it's a decent collection, it's insured, it's great, and I thought, damn it, I should have drank that. I should have drank that wine. And so you know what I do now? I tell people, if you ever come to Sonoma County and you want to come and hang out at my house, I will pour some of the best wine you've ever had in your life. Because you know what? I want to share it with people, right? So if you feel like you're out of time, I've got to make a change, but I don't have any options. I don't have any options. You always have options. One of the clips I'm going to play for you in just a second, it's an audio clip. And the reason why I really like it, it's a talk. It's actually, if you don't mind me backing up for just a second, I'm going to show you a photograph. See this guy, this surly guy? Isn't he great? I love his face. That is Captain Charlie Plum. He was in the United States Navy. He was a fighter pilot during the Vietnam War. And he has this great talk that's called Is Your Parachute Packed? If you ever get the chance to hear him as a speaker or listen to his audio, I promise you will thank me and you'll want to buy me one when you see me. So this guy spent 6 years of his life when he was 24 in a communist prison camp in Vietnam. And he would tell you that that was the foundational experience of his life that made his life better. So my little story is nothing compared to Charlie Plum's story. But he has this great talk he gives, it's talking about packing parachutes. What's a parachute packer? A parachute packer is somebody that gives of themselves. It's your mentor. They don't expect anything in return. And they do things to help others. And so what I love about this story and this little clip that he's going to play is he tells a story of being in the communist prison camp. Now, it's an air war in Vietnam, and so all the POWs are fighter pilots, except for one. So can we play that clip for just a second?
And we continued to pack those parachutes, and maybe the greatest parachute packer in the place turned out to be a sailor, a Navy sailor. This guy was the lowest ranking guy there. Because we were all officers. We were pilots, and pilots were being shot down. It was an air war. We were being blown out of the sky and parachuting into enemy hands. And so we had 200 top guns, and who shows up? A Navy sailor? How, you're asking, did a Navy sailor get into a prison camp in an air war over North Vietnam? He fell off his ship. He used to tell us, I wasn't captured. He'd say, I was rescued. 19 years old, on a cruiser, in the middle of the night, falls off. We'd have these contests. In our secret code, we'd tug on the wires, pass around a little questionnaire. We'd say, who's the oldest in the prison camp? We'd say, who's got the most kids back home? We'd say, who's been here the longest? One time we had what we call the high, fast, low, slow contest, to try to determine what fighter pilot had jumped out of his jet going highest and fastest, who jumped out going lowest and slowest. Well, high fast contest is won by some Air Force jock who punched out of his F-105 at 52,000 feet, 1,000 miles an hour. Low slow contest was won by the Navy sailor. 12 feet at 15 knots. Oh, here's the interesting part, and why I take the time to tell you this kid's story. You see, this lowly sailor, this insignificant entry-level minimum wage, non-person, you know the type we have to rub elbows with once in a while, but we don't like to very much. The guy didn't suffer from prison thinking the way the more mature officer class did. I don't know why. I can't explain this to you. Sometimes I think, well, he just wasn't mature enough to understand the problem. You know, you're not born with prison thinking. That is an acquired trait. It's a characteristic that we learn. You're not born blaming your mother for your pain, playing the role of an infant. That just comes, and he didn't get it. He didn't seem to stack in these prison blocks, you know, the blocks that we all get around us once in a while. He didn't have a block for anger and one for guilt and one for jealousy and one for revenge, and he didn't stack those things up higher than he could see. What did the sailor do? The sailor set to work. The sailor got into action. The sailor decided, as bad as this looks, there's some value here, and I'm going to find out what it is. The sailor kicked down what was left of his comfort zone. He started taking risks. He started tugging on wires. He collected all the names of all the prisoners. 200 of us, first, middle, last name. He put our names in the songs. He would sing these songs over and over. Went back through the list. He memorized our Social Security number or identifier, 200 different numbers. Incredible. Still wasn't finished. Went back through the list. He memorized our hometowns all across the country. Then he memorized our next of kin, wives and fathers, and finally, I'm not kidding, the sailor memorized the telephone numbers of each of the relatives of each of the prisoners. Now that took 2 years. He was 21. And that year, the enemy came up with a little promotion deal. They're going to send some guys home early before the end of the war. Our senior man sent the message to the sailor. Said, son, I want you to volunteer to go home first. What do you suppose he said? Remember, this is a parachute packer. This is the kind of a person you'd like to have on your elbow when you face the real tough ones. The sailor sent back, sir, with all due respect, I'd rather stay here with the team. The problem's not finished, and I want to be a part of the solution. Our senior man sent back, that's not an option. Here's a direct order, shove off. And the sailor said, aye, aye, sir. And home he came. Now write the script on this sailor. What could you expect of this guy now? 2 years in prison by accident. He's been starved, lonely, humiliated, but things are looking up. He now has a brand new suit of clothes on, 2 years back pay in his pocket, and he's free on the streets of San Diego. What can you expect? Oh, but he was a parachute packer. Now what do you suppose he did? The kid went west coast to east. He went north to south. He went through each one of the hometowns he'd memorized. He dialed each one of those telephone numbers he'd memorized. He spoke to each one of the wives he'd memorized and told her that her prisoner was alive. Let me ask you this. You know those people I'm talking about, those parachute packers? People that give without asking anything in return, that aren't interested in the immediate gratification or the quick fix or the kudos or the accolades. Yeah, these pews are full of them. Look to your right, look to your left. You'll see a bunch of parachute packers in here.
Thank you. I love that story. I've heard that story so many times. I think this is the first time I've actually listened to it without crying. I was like, don't do it, Jack. Don't do it. Don't cry. Not now. Be a big girl. Are you a parachute packer? And if you're not, I know you can be. And I bet each and every one of you was moved by that story. But it's just a guy who made a decision, right? I personally, when I hear that he volunteered to stay, I'm like, I'm out of here, okay? I'm not staying as the POW. But that was his reaction. And I tell you this, I share that clip with you. I was really moved to share that this morning, and I hope that you didn't mind that little 5-minute clip. But it's such a powerful story. And it's a powerful story because it's an average person who recognized that he could have a great impact on other people's lives. And then none of us are likely to be in that situation, but we'll find ourselves in situations where we can help somebody who's hurting, where we can help a colleague who needs someone to just sound off on. When we ask for help, we are also very powerful because being in the position to ask for help, and being willing to admit that you need help is a really powerful place to be because you recognize something that you want more. And so in my life and the people that I've learned the most from and the tribe that I surround myself with, remember I talked about that, are the kinds of people that are like that and that I aspire to be. Remember? So when I talked to you at the beginning, I said, everybody's been talking since yesterday about all the things that we should do. And I've challenged you to think about the person that you want to be. Because again, I will say that when you're the person that you aspire to be, you're going to have a lot more clarity, you'll have more focus. You're going to know the things that are the right things to do, and you're going to ultimately, I think, be a happier person. I don't think happiness is something that's found when you look for it. I think you find it along the way as you go through things. So we talked a little bit about being on the precipice of a big change, about feeling like you don't have confidence, feeling like you're out of time. Don't be afraid. Whatever you do, seek out the help that you need. The cool thing is, I will tell you, as you think about this, and feel free to talk to me later, whether it's me or somebody I know that can help you, I will absolutely connect you with people. And I ask folks a lot of times when they come to me and say, like, Jacquelyn, I think I want you to coach me. I'm not sure if I'm ready to do it. You know what? You have to ask yourself if you're ready for that. If you're not ready for coaching, get a mentor. Mentors are more important anyway. Like a coaching relationship is often something that's very specific for a specific amount of time, except for those of us in desperate need who have coaches for long term. You have to ask if you're willing to change, if you're ready for change. I actually have something free for you guys if you'd like to go to this website, lxu.training/coachme. It's actually a great little download on a checklist of how to evaluate coaches in your life to see if you really want to have somebody as a coach. So it's a great little guideline. And whether it's me, whether it's someone else, whether I can give you advice, whether we can stay connected and mentor each other, I'd be honored to do that. And in closing, I just want to thank all of you for just giving of yourself and being parachute packers. And thanks for listening to my talk. It's been a pleasure.
Two quick questions.
Yes.
Number one, if you're looking for a mentor, how do you set expectations with the person that you're asking to be your mentor, what you're looking for, and what you expect to get from them?
Yeah, so I actually think that's a great question, and I think you almost answered it in your question, is when you seek out a mentor and you approach them, you tell them what you expect to get out of it, what you're hoping to get out of it. So I'm looking for someone to talk to every other week about these topics, or I'm just looking for somebody to give me some ideas. So you just set the expectations up front. It's pretty basic, and your mentor should be willing to either agree to that or not. Yep, does that help?
That's great, thanks. And number two, when you decide to be a mentor, how do you set parameters surrounding the time you have to give to somebody?
Yeah, so actually for me, that's a tough one, right? Because I sell software in my day job, and then in my free evenings and stuff like that, I coach people. And a lot of people come to me, I mentor a lot of people at Percolate where I work. And, I just have to set boundaries. And oftentimes what I'll say, because I'm in the unique position of also being a coach in my spare time, and I'll say things like, if you're interested in pursuing a more formal relationship, we can talk about that. Otherwise, you have to, as a mentor, if you're mentoring people, you have to preserve your energy, right? We talked about the inner circle and preserving your energy for what matters. You can't give away your time. So you let people know, like, look, I've got this much time I can give. I'm happy to connect with you once a month or whatever. But you just got to be honest.
I loved your presentation.
Thank you.
Can you tell us how you kept the right mindset when you went through that really tough time? Because I can tell you're just an incredibly optimistic and positive person. And you didn't say it in your presentation, but I guarantee you were just like rock solid with your mindset through those difficult times. So could you tell us how you were able to do that?
Yeah. I think for the most part for me, it was my faith. So I believe that the people who have the most kinds of positivity, optimism, and ability to fight through situations like that are people who look to a source of strength higher than themselves. I'm not talking about religion for everybody. Like some people believe in God, some people don't. Some people at least believe that the universe is a very powerful and generous place. So I think looking to a power higher than that of yourself is really key because, look, you gotta believe in something that's stronger than Jacquelyn or Kyle or anybody, right? And so for me, that was a great source of strength. And the people around me, right? So I include people around you that are your source of strength as well. But that's what I believe.
Outstanding presentation. I got so much out of it. I worked with a sales coach actually for 6 months of my first 6 months at Ansys. So I was right at 2 years ago. It worked I got a lot out of it. Long term though, I think that particular coach was not the right long-term coach for me, and I haven't picked it up again. You've had the same coach for 4 years. This, just a real quick back note, this was a coaching organization. So she was a coach. Yeah. That was her full-time job. How did you find your coach? And perhaps this is part of what you have in the link here, but what are sort of the criteria you look for in who should be your coach?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And is your coach a full-time coach? Is that their job? Like their job?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So my coach I've known since 2000. He knew me when I took my first quota-carrying sales role out of being a sales engineer to being sales, and he was the guy that gave me the first opportunity. For me personally, what I was looking for in a coach is somebody who'd walked in my shoes. I had worked with coaches who were just HR professionals turned coaches. I think that's a noble profession. I think it's fine. I was really looking for somebody who had been in my situation. I wasn't looking for somebody who did it like full-time as an HR certified person. Those people I found actually crushed me as opposed to help me. So for me, it's vital. I think you want to look for somebody who's walked in your shoes. I think as salespeople, if we're looking for coaching around our sales and our lives, it's helpful to have somebody who's carried a quota because otherwise they can't really relate. But there are a lot of cool things in the checklist too. I think the other thing is you have to know what you're looking for, right? You're not quite sure what you're looking for, but at least you have some parameters, like you want it for 6 months, you want to do this for a year or whatever. And a lot of times coaching relationships have a natural start and end point. And it should feel natural, to be honest with you. And that's my criteria. It should feel natural, should be somebody who's walked in your shoes, and it should really have a purpose because you're paying for it a lot of times.
Last question. How often do you speak to your coach? Is it every other week? Like you sort of
I speak to him every other week, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So generally speaking, I've seen coaching relationships be weekly or every other week. Any less than that, and it's a little inconsistent. It's hard to keep up with people once a month. That's a mentoring thing, quite frankly.
Hey, thank you so much for that talk. It was huge value, and definitely appreciate it. I love the idea of mentoring and being mentored. And so I guess a two-part question. So the first part is, how important or is proximity at all important when it comes to a mentoring relationship rather? I know historically I've always thought of mentorship as something that, we're sort of walking together, sort of doing life together at the same time. And I know that, there's a trend now and there's been some success with mentorship from afar. So that would be the first part. How important would proximity be, and does it impact the mentorship? And then the second would be, in terms of the mentorship, is there such a thing as mentorship unawares, right? Where you are being mentored, but you don't know it, or you are, because we're talking about like having, needing to know like the parameters and all of these things, but is there good mentorship that happens, again, unawares, either from one side to the other or vice versa, in your opinion?
Well, I'll answer the second one first, and I think absolutely it does happen by accident almost sometimes. I think back to people who have impacted me, and I think I was probably being mentored and didn't realize it. And so you take those experiences and like, I'll take everything I can get, right? So that's awesome. The first part is actually an interesting question. I like to be able to see people face to face, but I don't think it's absolutely warranted. But what is really vital if you have a remote relationship, so my coach is in Pennsylvania, I'm in California. We don't ever see each other unless we do video conference. So if you're going to have a coach who's remote, you have to make sure that you're getting the most value out of it. Are they paying attention? Are they giving of themselves? Do you know without a doubt that you're their sole focus at that time? So when you're with someone in person, right? Yeah. You know that. Yeah. So I think if you can have a coach that's near you, that's awesome. But if the right coach isn't, just make sure that you invest in that person, mutually, that there's that give and take. Video conference is excellent. So I do a lot of video conferencing with people. Like one of my best students is in Chicago, and we video conference so that he knows that I'm present, when we're talking. Yeah. And I love when I get to meet him, so that's awesome.
All right, thank you very
much.
You're
welcome, thanks.
Echoing the thoughts of probably everyone in the room and certainly the folks who asked the question, a great presentation, thank you. Thank you. Super quick question, what do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about coaching and or mentorship?
Well, gosh, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that. I guess, just giving it a little bit of thought, and I'll actually give it some more thought too, Ola, and we can talk about it. I think one of the big misconceptions I've had in the past is that a coach has to be like a HR person who's been trained and certified to do these things. Because like I said, I've worked with 2 people like that before, and they were useless to me. In fact, really destroyed me, and not in a good way. And so I think that's a common misconception. I think the other thing is that everybody needs one. I think everybody needs mentors. I don't think everybody needs a coach. I think that's a very specific relationship. You are paying for it. It is, something that's very formal, if you will. And not everybody needs that or would benefit from it or even wants it. So I think those are a couple of things I thought about. But I'll give it some more thought too, because we could talk about it.
Thank you for the presentation. There are a lot of people who need coaches, need guidance of some sort. They feel like they need that thing to take them to the next level, but they're not at that next level yet in order to necessarily be able to afford a formal coaching relationship. At some point, you have to be in, you have to take the risk, you have to dive in. How do you walk people through that decision? Because it's a very personal decision. I mean, do you have guidelines for when you feel like you should really give someone that nudge? Or there's a lot of people in this room probably, who have experienced that or whatever. How do you have a format for that? Do you have a series of questions that you ask for that? Or is it something where you have a pseudo mentorship relationship with that person already? That's why they've come to you. How do you help people with that?
No, that's a really good one, Jeff. I think a lot of times I've ended up coaching people formally that I have mentored previously who really wanted to enter into a formal relationship. So the nice thing is they know me, they know the value I bring, and now they're going to get a lot more value because it's dedicated time, it's regular, it's pretty serious. So that's one thing. So the experiential is very nice. Remember we talked about the waiters, the drifters, the nonbelievers. I mean, very quickly for me personally, and I've heard this from other coaches, they weed people out that way. We don't have the time or the energy. If you don't really think you need to change, I'm never going to convince you. Like it is, like you said, very personal. Someone has to recognize the need for change and have the discipline to do it. So a lot of times I'll really sort of assess where people are on that continuum. I think the checklist that you can download, and there's no obligation to, do anything after that. If you just want kind of the checklist is great. It helps you really sort of get some clarity around it. It just gives you a self-assessment of, am I ready for doing this? Do I want to do this? A lot of folks I talk to at Percolate are young sales professionals who are just literally in their first year or 2 of their career. They don't have the money for a coach, and I would never ask them to. I do that out of my own goodness of my heart because I love these people. Parachute packing, trying anyway.
And they would benefit the most from it sometimes.
Exactly.
So I mean, that's kind of the paradox that I mean to bring up, right?
Yeah.
Like the people who could benefit from it the most are often not in a position to be able to afford it.
Yeah. And that's why I think it's great. I think Jake and I were talking about this at dinner last night. One of the things that he and Charlie are doing at Intel is really putting together these great programs for these young professionals, these inside sales teams. You know, so your companies should invest in this, absolutely. If you own a company, if you lead a team, you should absolutely invest in this kind of activity for sure. Because especially your young sales professionals who are, like Dave was talking about, sometimes they're the best years of your life in a sales role in a particular job or whatever. Like, let's enable them to succeed and give back. Like, one of my reasons for talking to you guys about this today is to inspire you to help others, right? That's what my coach finally told me at one point. He's like, hey, guess what, Grasshopper? Time for you to help. I'm like, Riv, really? Yes, yes. And now I can't stop. It's like, I love it. I love doing it. I love helping people. And but you're right. It's the people who often need it the most are in the not really in a position to be able to do it. But that's why we all give back, right? So I want to inspire you all to be little Jacquelyns, little parachute packers, the Navy sailor, to go out and help people that there's no way they could afford you if you were a coach, but you can help them. And, you know, DeJuan, we talked about this yesterday in the bar about just how you're helping your teams, right? Navigate change. The people that can help you the most are not the people who've had the cushy, easy life. They're not the people who've never been through a trouble in their life. They're the people who are like, oh, man, I have had some pretty serious stuff happen to me, right? Right? They have compassion. They get it. So anyway, thank you, guys. My pleasure.